Not every can't-miss hockey prodigy gets their story told the way they imagined. Some rise like Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid, destined from the moment they could skate. Others stumble, weighed down by impossible expectations. And then there's Shane Wright, the kid who was supposed to be a lock at first overall in the 2022 NHL Draft. The phenom who dominated at every level, and the teenager who, instead of walking to the stage first, slipped all the way down to fourth, staring daggers at the Montreal Canadiens draft table as if to ask, how could you pass me up? That moment instantly became one of the most unforgettable draft day storylines of the past decade. But as the booze faded in Montreal's Bell Center, the bigger question lingered. What would come next? Would Shane Wright prove everyone wrong, or would that slide mark the beginning of another cautionary tale in hockey history? Shane Wright wasn't just good, he was exceptional, literally. At 14 years old, skating for the Don Mills Flyers, Wright piled up a jaw-dropping 222 points in just 105 games. Scouts were already calling him the next big thing. He was so advanced that Hockey Canada granted him exceptional status, allowing him to enter the Ontario Hockey League as a 15-year-old. Only 5 players before him had ever earned that title. Names like John Tavares, Aaron Ekblad, and Connor McDavid. Each of those players had gone on to become household names in the NHL. Wright was expected to follow that same path. He didn't waste any time proving it. As a rookie with Kingston, Wright scored 66 points in 58 games, breaking franchise records and immediately being named captain at just 15. For context, McDavid wasn't even given the C that early. Wright's hockey IQ, leadership, and maturity set him apart from everyone his age. But then, the world shut down. The pandemic wiped out the entire 2020-21 OHL season. For almost 579 days, Wright didn't play a single competitive hockey game, and while he trained relentlessly, rollerblading, hitting the gym, staying in routine, there's no true substitute for game speed. That long break planted the first seeds of doubt. Scouts still loved his upside, but suddenly there were whispers. Had his development stalled? For years, Wright was penciled in as the #1 pick of the 2022 NHL Draft. Tank for Shane became a catchphrase. Montreal Canadiens fans practically celebrated him as theirs before the lottery even arrived. And yet, on that stage in Montreal, the Habs stunned the hockey world. They selected Juraj Slavkovsky, the Slovakian power forward, instead. The boos rained down from Canadiens fans in the arena, who had already envisioned Wright centering their lineup. Then came more surprises. The Devils, sitting at number 2, chose defenseman Simon Nemec. The Coyotes at number 3 went with flashy American center Logan Cooley. And just like that, the so-called safe pick and consensus #1 fell all the way to the Seattle Kraken at 4th overall. As Wright walked across the stage, he glanced toward the Canadiens table with a glare that instantly went viral. It was the look of a player who felt snubbed, passed over, disrespected. And in that single moment, the expectations shifted. Wright wasn't just a phenom anymore. He became the NHL's newest revenge story. But revenge wasn't immediate. Far from it. Wright's first NHL season was complicated. He made his debut in October 2022, but barely saw the ice, sometimes under 7 minutes a night. Seattle scratched him multiple times. Eventually, they even sent him to the AHL for a conditioning stint, where he lit it up with 4 goals in 5 games. He returned to the NHL just in time to score his first career goal against, of all teams, the Montreal Canadiens. Hockey fans couldn't help but call it poetic justice. But that revenge tour didn't last. Wright was soon sent back to junior hockey and later the AHL for more seasoning. For a while, it felt like his story might be drifting into the same lane as other once hyped can't-miss prospects who never quite broke through. But then, piece by piece, things started to shift. Fast forward to the 2024-25 NHL season, and suddenly the narrative is very different. Wright finally played his first full year in the NHL, suiting up for 79 games with the Kraken. And while Seattle's season was rocky, missing the playoffs and undergoing a coaching change, Wright quietly put together the kind of rookie campaign that showed exactly why he'd been so hyped. He scored 19 goals and 25 assists for 44 points, finishing 8th in team scoring. But beyond the numbers, Wright looked like he belonged. His two-way play shone through, blocking shots, throwing hits, winning face-offs. He wasn't just along for the ride, he was becoming a dependable piece of Seattle's lineup. It wasn't flashy like Connor Bedard's rookie season, but it was steady, intelligent hockey, the type of foundation that can anchor a team for years. And in many ways, it was the perfect answer to all the doubts that followed him since that draft day snub. What made Wright's season so encouraging was his ability to adapt. He thrived in a middle six role, showing flashes of elite vision and hockey IQ. Coaches trusted him in defensive situations, and his physical game developed, finishing with over 40 blocked shots and nearly 70 hits. But there are still challenges. His shot volume remains lower than scouts would like. At times, he can disappear offensively if he's not driving the play, and while 44 points is a great rookie baseline, the next step will be proving he can consistently push towards 60, 70, or more. Still, the tools are there: the skating, the awareness, the maturity. Wright may not be as flashy as Slafkovsky or Cooley, but he's showing that being the safe pick isn't a bad thing at all. Wright's rise came during a turbulent season for the Kraken. The team missed the playoffs, leading to a coaching change and plenty of questions about the roster's future. Veterans struggled and the offense sputtered, but that chaos gave Wright an opening. By the final stretch, he wasn't just surviving, he was trusted in top-line minutes. For a kid who had been stapled to the bench as a rookie, it was a massive leap forward. And as the Kraken retool heading into 2025 to 2026, Wright is suddenly at the center of their plans. He's no longer just a prospect waiting in the wings, he's a core piece of Seattle's present. Wright's entry-level deal runs through the 2026-27 season, which means Seattle has a golden window to develop him without cap headaches. If his trajectory continues, the Kraken will soon face the same question every team asks when their top prospect blossoms. Do you lock him up early with a long-term extension, or let him prove even more before paying up? For Montreal, the decision with Slafkovsky was easy. They gave him an 8-year contract worth $7.6 million annually. That's franchise cornerstone money, signaling total belief in his future. For Seattle, the choice with Wright will be more complicated. His steady two-way play is undeniable, but the big breakout offensive numbers haven't arrived yet. Do they bet early on his ceiling and sign him long-term, or wait and risk paying even more if he explodes offensively in the next 2 seasons? At the same time, Wright's development can't be looked at in isolation. The players drafted ahead of him, Slafkovsky, Nemec, and Cooley, are all finding their own footing. Slafkovsky is carving out a role as Montreal's power forward of the future. Nemec is logging nearly 20 minutes a night as a rookie defenseman, and Cooley is already turning heads with his creativity in Utah. Each of them represents a different archetype of NHL stardom: the big winger, the top pair defenseman, and the flashy offensive center. Wright, he's the dependable one, the stabilizer, a player you can throw into any situation: penalty kill, late defensive shift, or power play, and know he won't crumble. And while that might not be as exciting on the highlight reels, it's the exact type of player championship teams are built around. The next 2 years will define how we view Wright's career arc. If his offense continues to grow and he pushes towards 60 to 70 points, he could force his way into the conversation as the best player of the 2022 draft class. If not, he'll still project as a strong second-line center, a role every team desperately needs. Either way, Seattle suddenly has a cornerstone to build around, and for a franchise still carving out its identity, that might be even more valuable than flashy numbers. So, whatever happened after Shane Wright's snub? The kid who once glared across the draft floor has turned that chip on his shoulder into motivation. He's not the flashiest, he's not dominating highlight reels, but he is proving step by step why so many believed in him from the start. The story isn't finished. Maybe he becomes Seattle's franchise center. Maybe he settles into being a dependable two-way second liner. But one thing is certain: Shane Wright isn't fading into obscurity. He's writing a new chapter, and the league is starting to notice. The real question now, when we look back at the 2022 draft 10 years from today, will we remember it for Slafkovsky, Cooley, Nemec, or for the kid who slipped to 4th only to rise anyway?